I'm going to have to go to Plan B. But even Bamboozer is not allowing me to, he's not connecting with Wi-Fi on. So what I've done is switch to record mode, and I will just record this. At least it's part of it while I'm down here. And then what I might do is I just might archive individual sections and then upload them later. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing with this. So when I get home, I will have Ustream upload that portion that I recorded with that app. And then I'll just upload later when I get out of here the individual segments that I'm just going to record and not actually broadcast live because I'm just not getting good signal in here. I will also be shooting pictures so that I can post them up on Facebook for another visual record for those that were not able to attend, and just those who might be interested in such things. Again, they're waiting for the speakers to come in. It is about showtime. A few more minutes. I plugged in my power pack, so it's giving me the ability to continuously run this, at least for most of the time. Although since I'm just recording instead of actually broadcasting, I still may archive individual segments. There is a song here that says Iowa Interfaith Exchange. And then over there is another one that has Drake underneath DMARC. That stands for Des Moines Area Religious Council. And then logos representing other sponsors. The screen is down, so there may be projections, I'm not sure. I don't know, it's just a back wall. I don't know if there'll be projections, but it is that images or video could be projected on that, since it is white. I will give you a look at the growing audience. There's plenty of seats down here in the front. Well, what these breakout sessions will do, I got one of the programs that The breakout sessions will be topic related with different topics. So the panel members represent those working with refugees, like the Vietnamese or the Hmong and Laos, Somali and others. There's one Islam as a cultural system, and the history of the Mother Mosque of America, which is located in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And then Soto Zen Buddhism in Iowa, Orthodox Christian practices in Des Moines, current look at paganism or Wicca in Iowa, teaching in New Jerusalem, the Mormon trails across Iowa and beyond. But, earlier, when I was upstairs, there was an Orthodox priest or bishop. I think I would guess he is a bishop by the look of the cross that he's wearing and his habit. Habit is a Christian religious garment that monks, nuns wear, and some priests. It is closer to showtime. It looks like name cards have been brought down for the people who will be sitting at the table. There's also a whiteboard over there, but I don't know if that'll exist. But it could. I'm closer than I would actually like to be, but there's just not enough room in the rows behind the front to extend the legs of my tripod. So that's why I'm down in front. the Wi-Fi here sucks, so I'm just going to have to record. Can someone file a complaint?
I'd like to welcome you this afternoon to possibly the only non-caucus related event in the morning. So it's not just me that is ever so slightly tired of the whole thing. Welcome again to DMARC's Interfaith Exchange. For those of you who are not familiar with the Des Moines Area Religious Council, we are an interfaith organization. That is truly our history. Our congregations, there are about 135 congregations currently of the Christian, Jewish, Muslim, and Unitarian faith traditions. And the work that we do mostly is hunger work, but we have always been interfaith. And in fact, the hunger work that we do together because all of our faith traditions believe that it is important to help the needy. But we also do interfaith programming, and that is what today is. It's a sort of follow-up to what we used to call the winter thaw. Were any of you ever at winter thaw events? Yeah. So winter thaw has a long history in Des Moines, but we're trying it a little differently this year. Rather than multiple weeks of events, we're doing it all in one afternoon, and we have a very special speaker that we will be introducing in a moment as well. We are going to have someone up here to talk about logistics in just a minute so that you'll understand what your choices are in terms of workshops. But I did want to just say briefly that basically there are two time slots that have workshops. So if you look at your program, this side is the first set of workshops and you pick one. This side is the later set of workshops and you pick one. Does that make sense? It requires you to make very difficult choices. I personally am going to split myself into two. Yes.
Person said we teach a chef.
So there was one where Sheldon split it in two. That's what I'm going to do. I do want to, as we get started, thank our sponsors. And you can see the poster up here that has all the sponsors. Drake University and the Comparison Project, and Tim Necker is going to talk to us about the Comparison Project, and also Drake University Press, our sponsors, but also the Mars Cafe, thank you for the coffee, yay, and Zanzibar's, and Christian Printers, who printed the programs for us, and Catholic Peace Ministry, the Center for Social Justice, Iowa Religious Freedom Day. All of them have tables outside if you'd like to go by and talk with anyone who's representing any of those organizations. And the Comparison Project and the Drake Community Press are the ones that are preparing the book that is on the interfaith traditions in Iowa that Tim is going to talk about. So now I'm going to turn the podium over to Colin Fox to do a brief bit about logistics, where are the bathrooms, things like that, and then Tim will do a welcome on behalf of Drake University. But thank you so much for coming. We will start here. We'll send the workshop partly here, partly upstairs. We will be back here for Peter and the closing, and I'm looking forward to it. Colin?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. And I just want to say that my job in this conference is most important, where the bathrooms are. Upstairs, around registration, near the ping pong table, is where the closest bathroom is. Where the sessions, when you go to your breakout sessions, 1, 2, They are on the top floor, so you can get there two ways. You can take all the stairs. They go kind of in a big circle. That's how Drake set up this building. You can look for people with name tags where you can help direct you. Or you can go up the stairs, go around the registration near the ping pong table again, and take the elevator. The elevator is set up with letters rather than numbers. So you want to hit UF or UR. That means upper front or upper rear. It's going to take you all the way to the top. There's going to be a few signs, but you're in rooms 311 and 313. So as you look at the program, I'm just going to start from the top right. We have our first panel discussion here in this room, substance. So you've already had, if you're going to do that, you've already found it. The other two, for the first session, the Mother Mosque and the Zen Buddhism. Mother Mosque is in room 311 at the top. The Zen Buddhism breakout session is in room 313. We flip now to the breakout session 2. The other panel discussion is again in this room. And we have our current look at paganism in room 313, and I'm keeping a New Jerusalem in room 311. And then we have our keynote speaker, Peter, here in this room. So you'll come back after session 2 for the keynote. I also just want to say a thank you to the Des Moines Area Religious Council Community Engagement Committee members who are here to help set this event up. So a big thank you to you as well. I think everybody saw where the vendor tables were, the refreshments. There's going to be a book signing later for our keynote speaker, Peter. Also, I'm going to introduce Tim Nepper, who is going to interview Peter Mansu. Tim is a professor of philosophy here at this University of Drake. He chairs the Department of Philosophy and Religion. He also directs the Comparison Project, which we're going to talk about. He has written 2 books recently, The End of Philosophy and Religion and Negating Negation. And he also recently came back from teaching a great class abroad in India a couple weeks ago. So he has a lot of experience, and I'll hand it off to Tim.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Sarah. A lot of experience lately at getting sick. India's still not out of my system. So I'm just thinking topple over. I'm here wearing 2, maybe 3 hats. It's the first hat as chair of the Department of Philosophy and Religion here at Drake University. I welcome you to the event, to Drake, to the Olmsted building, which is the student center. Hillary, I think, is going to be here tomorrow night, but for today, at least we have it to ourselves. Second hat. A few years ago, 3.5 years ago, I started a program called the Comparison Project. It began as a lecture and dialogue series that would explore a particular topic through different faith traditions. We did suffering, we did religion beyond words. We're currently on to our third topic, death and dying in religious traditions. We have a book series contract with an academic publisher. We published a series with comparative conclusions. But the events are pitched to the general public. They're always free and open to the public. There's a component that involves scholars who come in and give talks, but there's also a local dialogue component to it as well. There are brochures outside on our table that describe that lecture and dialogue series, at least the one this year on death and dying. 2.5 years ago, we started a more local component to the program called the Religions of Des Moines Initiative. I think that's what we call it. Some classes that we teach here at Drake that are introductions to world religions as they're practiced locally. While the students are visiting these religious traditions with site visits, they're working with practitioners in these religious traditions to create visual stories. We have these visual stories on our website along with guides to and histories about local religious communities. We've done eight so far, and we work through about one every semester, sometimes 2 in summer. So check that out, and come back frequently to check that out if you have things to it. The most exciting part of that Religions of Des Moines initiative is the picture book, photo illustrated guide to 15 different religious communities that we're working on now. Bob Blanchard, the photographer, is here and sitting in the back. You all, I hope, have had a chance to take a look at his marvelous photos out there, along with some of my writing. We've done 6 of these communities so far, and they're all out there. But this semester, we have students working, doing research on and with all 15 communities who are going to be in the book. They're going to be collecting content this semester. Bob's going to be taking lots of photographs. We're going to do layout design in the fall, and hopefully this book will be published in spring of 2017. We're looking to bring some kind of big celebrity to that event, Krista Tippett, I hope. But we'll also have events this spring, a community building event, which the students will show posters with some of the writing about communities and photos of the communities as well. So there's literature about that out there as well, and obviously displays with some of the photographs and the writing that we've done so far. Okay, good so far? Third hack is to introduce today's keynote speaker and to introduce the lectureship, the endowed lectureship that makes this possible, called the Stringfellow Lectureship. It goes back to 1962. It was that year that Edwin Stringfellow passed away. Taught for a long time at Drake, primarily New Testament. He attended First Christian Church down at 25th and University and taught a cornerstone class there, which I think was something like a Sunday school class. When he passed away, the members of the class worked to endow a lectureship in his name. Wow, that's fantastic. And we today are the beneficiaries of that. We've had some really fantastic speakers over the years through this Stringfellow lectureship. And it was first, Drake was founded by the Disciples of Christ, and we had a Disciples of Christ seminary here from the early 50s to the late 60s. We try our best in the Department of Philosophy and Religion to maintain those traditions and honor those legacies. The Stringfellow lecture today is one way in which we do that. Peter, you want the long introduction now or the short one? Let me give a time it's the short one. Peter Mansell, everybody, he's written a number of really great books. He was a classmate, actually, mine at Boston University. We had a really good time last night catching up. He's going to make a few preparatory remarks now before we move into the 2 panel session slots. And then at 4, I believe is when his simple lecture will be given, and I'll give a more proper introduction to that. But for now, please join me in welcoming Peter Mansell.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you everyone for being here. And it's a real thrill to be here. I just flew in from Maryland, so is everyone else from Des Moines, pretty much, or thereabouts? So I know that you are all feeling some pocket fatigue, but I have to tell you how exciting it is for an out-of-towner just to parachute in here and see what's going on here. And in fact, just on the way over here, driving over from my hotel, I found myself driving behind the most elaborately decorated Volkswagen Beetle I've ever seen. It was for a candidate, I couldn't tell exactly which one, but it had a large papier-mâché eagle on the top of it. It was driving down University Avenue. I nearly kept following it and didn't end up coming here. Well, despite those distractions, this really seems to me to be the perfect time to be having the kinds of conversations that we'll have here today. Presidential politics, despite their excesses, they have a way of bringing issues to the fore that otherwise might be overlooked on the national stage. Whether you feel that candidates' faith is central to their ability to govern, or if it's irrelevant to you, or if you simply think that belief is too often used as a political prop. This ritual we have every 4 years of reassessing the direction the country is going in really allows us to remember that religion and its role in our society is one of our most enduring and important questions that we ask as a nation. The last time I was in Iowa around caucus time was 12 years ago, and it strikes me that in the years since, the way we talk about religion, and religion and politics specifically, has changed in both good and bad ways. Many of you will remember that just 10 days and 7 years ago, January 21st, 2009, when Barack Obama delivered his first inaugural address on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, it was the first time that a newly elected president had used the occasion to highlight religious diversity as an essential and vital ideal of the nation. What the president said at the time was, "We are a nation of Christians and Muslims, Jews and Hindus and non-believers." He was restating something that he had said in the lead-up to the election, a phrase that, the way he often phrased it was, "We are not just a Christian nation, we are a Jewish nation, we are a Buddhist nation, we are a Muslim nation, we are a Hindu nation, and we are a nation of atheists and non-believers." Like so much of the rhetoric that had helped win him the election, it was at once an acknowledgement of a history that is far more diverse than we often remember, and it was a hopeful evocation of a hopefully less divisive future. Well, as we begin this process of deciding who the next president will be, some of you may join me in worrying that despite that rhetoric, we now seem to be more divided along religious lines than at any other time in our recent history. Within the past year, if you've watched the news, you've seen protesters carrying crosses on the steps of the state capitals of Texas and Oklahoma, shouting "Go home" at Muslims who were born in the United States. In Idaho, we saw state senators who refused to listen to a non-Christian prayer as an invitation because they said it invoked false gods. In just the last few weeks, we've seen reports of harassment, vandalism, and violence committed against synagogues, mosques, Hindu temples, Sikh gurdwaras, and the people of faith who attend each. All of this has occurred while we have a president who has embraced a more inclusive approach to religion than any of his predecessors. Now, while continuing long-standing Christian traditions of lighting the national Christmas tree and hunting for Easter eggs in the south lawn of the White House, the president has repeatedly attempted to make good on the ecumenical promise of that first inaugural address. Not only has he presided at Ramadan iftar dinners, joining Bill Clinton and George W. Bush in doing so, but he hosted the first White House Passover Seder in 2009. And later that same year, at a celebration of the Hindu feast of Diwali, which he noted at the time is also held sacred by Jain, Sikhs, and Buddhists, he became the first president to light the ceremonial Diya lamp, which, according to one prayer, quote, "removes the darkness of ignorance with its flame." Unfortunately, 2 terms of a president who has made the recognition of religious diversity a priority seems to have had an opposite effect around much of the country. And just so that I'm not accused of having any kind of East Coast bias by naming only examples in Oklahoma, Texas, and Idaho, I should point out that recently, not far from where I live in Maryland, in Washington, D.C., there was a protest in front of the White House where it was announced that they planned to burn a copy of the Quran. Famously, the man who announced that he would like to ban all Muslim immigrants is a New Yorker. And I also come from what is often stereotyped as the most liberal state in the country, Massachusetts, where I was born and raised. And I was back home recently, and I was amazed, I should not have been, to find that the most perfect example I had yet seen of our current national confusion over what religion means in America. It was a mosque in the town of Burlington, Massachusetts, where the windows had been broken, walls had been painted with giant letters that said, USA, USA, USA. So this is clearly a national problem, and it is something that we are right not to ignore and to address directly. But how do we account for this disconnect between increased official recognition of religious diversity and increased expressions of nativism, fear, and hatred? As someone who writes often about the importance of religious diversity and as a creative force in American culture, and about its often forgotten influence in our common history, I am, of course, fully in support of all those presidential initiatives to recognize various faiths, but I also force myself to recognize their limitations. By attempting to gather all kinds of believers and non-believers in the same big tent, as President Obama did in his first inaugural, he also revealed an inconvenient truth, which is that despite our attachment to the idea of religious freedom, many Americans continue to mistrust those with beliefs they don't share. This is significant in part because it's possible that there has never been a time in which religious affiliations have ever been more in flux. According to a recent report by the Pew Research Center, more Americans than ever currently hold religious beliefs and affinities that they did not have when they were born and raised. And yet, despite this recognition that personally we may change and choose our religious beliefs, expressing an interest in or understanding multiple religious traditions remains for many a cause of suspicion. This is perhaps most notably the case with the President himself. Though he has written often and movingly about his own Christian faith, many Americans simply refuse to believe it. A full third of Americans, according to recent polls, do not believe that he is a Christian when he says so, and they believe it is a ruse to fool Americans with his faith. What this suggests to me is that having someone in the White House committed to valuing religious diversity is important, but it's not enough. No matter who wins here tomorrow, and no matter who wins in November, what is needed to move the country forward on this issue are more and more community events, just like this one. Religious pluralism does not mean merely an ever-expanding calendar of officially recognized holidays. Instead, it involves the hard work of acknowledging the complexity of living in a nation where we are free to believe or not to believe whatever we choose. Later this week, President Obama will, for the first time during his administration, visit a mosque on U.S. soil. At a time when Muslims in particular are facing anti-religious prejudice, this is clearly meant as a sign to underscore that respect for religious difference is a core American value. I have no doubt that there will be some reactions to this visit that will tap into this dark xenophobic vein that dates back to the very origins of the country. Yet no matter what negative reactions there might be, we can take solace that positive affirmation of religious difference has its own long history. It was nearly 60 years ago when the Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower dedicated the Washington, D.C. Islamic Center. When he used words of solidarity, it would be hopeful to hear from politicians today. I should like to assure you, he said, that under the American Constitution, under American tradition, and in American hearts, this center, this place of worship, is just as welcome as could be a similar edifice of any religion. Indeed, America would fight with her whole strength for your right to have here your own church and to worship according to your own conscience. I'd like to suggest that the most effective way that Americans fight for and maintain their rights is through the free exchange of ideas and experiences, which is exactly the kind of thing that has brought us here together today. So I'll leave it there and say that I'm looking forward to joining all the conversations here today and to saying more to you later on. Thank you very much.
So you're free now to, those of you who are going to stay for the panel can stand up and move around for a couple minutes while everybody readjusts, and the other two workshops will be all the way upstairs.
recapitulate. I'm going to go and do what I did at the event that I streamed at First Christian. I'm going to go sample each one of these.
The one about the it was really, really good. He is going to be in room 311.
I'm going to go ahead and
Pardon me.
sure. Hey, Caitlin. Hello. I'm looking for the cheat box. Hey. I just saw Kathleen McCool, who is a Quaker and American member of the American Scientific Committee.